Hey, are you thinking about moving to Seattle, Washington, maybe even Issaquah, Washington? Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons about living in this small suburb off of Seattle, Washington. If that sounds fun to you, then let's get to it. Hey, if this is your first time in my channel and you want to know about moving to Seattle or areas around it like Issaquah, then subscribe down below and tap that bell for notifications so that you can be the first to learn about the current market here in Seattle. Hi, I'm Kelsey Anderson, and we get contacted all the time from people just like you looking to make their move to Seattle, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're looking to move in 7 days or 70 days, get in contact with me using the information in the description below so we can help you make that smooth move to Seattle. Now, let's not waste another second. Let's just get right into it. So Issaquah is a city just outside of Bellevue. Bellevue is 10 miles east of Seattle, and Issaquah is just to the east of Bellevue. So it's about 25-minute drive out of Seattle. You can get to Bellevue in 15 minutes, Seattle, like I said, in about 25 minutes, and it's also about 20-25 minutes to SeaTac Airport. So it has a great location. It's located right in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains. About half of Issaquah is literally just trees and mountains, but there is a little town nestled on the east shores of Lake Sammamish, where about 40,000 residents call Issaquah home. So just a beautiful city. Let's just get right into the pros. So the number one pro of living in Issaquah, Washington is definitely just the natural beauty. Like I said, it's in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains, and right behind Issaquah is Squawk Mountain. You have Cougar Mountain Regional Wild Park, which is over 3,100 acres of interlocking trails. There's waterfalls and all these just cool, super scenic places that you can do horseback riding and picnicking and hiking, things like that. There's also Tiger Mountain. If you are a native to the area, you've heard of Poo Poo Point. But if you are just thinking about moving to this area, Poo Poo Point is one of those very popular hikes. It's only about 2 miles. Super scenic views at the top, and you can even paraglide off of the top, which I've seen many people do. You could just look down off of this point and you can just see all of Issaquah, off Bellevue, into Seattle. You can even see Renton in the south. It's just absolutely incredible. There's also 2 lakes right bordering or inside of this small town. So Issaquah has Pine Lake, which is sort of just a small residential lake. If you've seen my other videos, you'll kind of get a little tour of that. That's for sort of non-motorized vehicles, but there's also a park there and there's sports fields. It's just like, oh, it's so cute. You feel like you're not near Seattle. You feel like you're in the like Central Washington or Central Oregon. So that's Pine Lake. And then there's also Lake Sammamish, which is 7 miles lake, 7 miles long. Lake Sammamish is what separates Issaquah from Bellevue. On the north side of Lake Sammamish is Redmond, and then sort of to the southwest is Renton. So that's where Issaquah is nestled, just right next to Lake Sammamish. That's probably the biggest landmark other than Squawk Mountain, and next to it is also Sammamish. So Sammamish and Issaquah sometimes are used a little bit interchangeably on that east side of Lake Sammamish, but absolute, just gorgeous Pacific Northwest in full throttle here in Issaquah, Washington. The number 2 pro of living in Issaquah, Washington is definitely the economy. So even though this city is 30 minutes, 25 minutes, depending on traffic, to the east of Seattle, you've got a lot of jobs and headquarters right in this city. So you've got Costco headquarters are right there. There's also lots of tech companies, companies like Microsoft have a big presence here in Issaquah. There's also different healthcare and science jobs. Part of Swedish has a branch in Issaquah, as well as other pharmaceutical companies. Another area where there's lots of job opportunities is in retail and hospitality, and that's because there's cute little shopping villages, not only just downtown Issaquah, but you've got Gilman Village right there, which is sort of this like adorable little set of shops in sort of historic Issaquah, and then also the new Grand Ridge Plaza up in the Issaquah Highlands, movie theaters, and just tons of different businesses and restaurants. Lots of condos went in over there, so lots of jobs sort of feeding and entertaining the folks up in the Highlands of Issaquah. The other thing is just more small businesses have started to pop up in different parts of Issaquah, and the city has really done a lot to help those small businesses thrive. So the economy, even though it's outside of Seattle, it's not very far from Bellevue in Seattle, so it's not too far to get there, but there's actually lots of job opportunities in this city. So that's pretty cool for having a city of only 40,000 people. The third pro of living in Issaquah is the schools. Niche.com gives Issaquah School District an A+ rating. You will not find a public school in Issaquah that people complain about across the board. People are just very generally happy with the schools in Issaquah, and there are over 19,000 students that are in schools in Issaquah right now, which boggles my mind considering the town is 40,000. So lots of kids are at school age that are living here in Issaquah. The top ratings you're going to see are academics and college prep, as well as teachers and sports. There's also private schools in Issaquah, but with public schools that have that good of rating and positives in sports and academics and teachers, I mean, it's going to be hard to go wrong living here and getting to go to the local public school system. 97% of students in this district are passing high school in 4 years, 77% are passing in reading, and 71% are passing in math. And when you compare those statistics to other local school districts, Issaquah is hitting that super top part of the range. Issaquah spends over $17,000 per student, which is above the national average. The number 4 pro of living in Issaquah is the community events. So in downtown historic Issaquah, where you'll see in some of my other videos, there's just this like super cute sort of old town vibe. If you go to Gilman Village, lots of events happen there. But in downtown, you've got Salmon Days, which is a festival that happens every October, celebrating those salmon coming back into Issaquah Creek. Over thousands of people come in to enjoy that festival. That's super fun. There's also an art walk that takes place quarterly throughout the year, where local artists come. You can meet the artists, you can eat, you can drink, you sort of come together right in that downtown area of Issaquah. There are also farmers markets that are happening from about May to September downtown, and also outdoor concerts. It's right at the community center in downtown Issaquah. It's called Concerts on the Green. And that's just an awesome way to come mingle with your community and enjoy a free concert. The last cool event that Issaquah hosts is the Issaquah Reindeer Festival. This festival happens right at the Cougar Mountain Zoo, which is located in sort of the northwest region of Issaquah. Super cool that they have this zoo right in their city, but they do this really awesome reindeer festival. There's, Santa comes, so it's a great way to bring out the kids, meet other families, things like that. that, but just such a fun way to get together with a community and have some fun around the holidays if that is something you celebrate. The final pro for living in Issaquah is the low crime rate. Okay, there are a few reasons, and one of the reasons that there's low crime in Issaquah is just the geographical, location of Issaquah. It's obviously, like I said, it backs up to Squawk Mountain, so you're gonna keep out people from coming into the city that don't live there, just because it's gonna be hard to get through those mountains. But the other reason is that the police and law enforcement are just known for their super strict policies, looking out for the community and coming down really hard on crime and mischief, things like that. So that's super huge. And there's just a lot of community involvement as far as families looking out for other families, and it just helps keep the crime rate down. Part of this is the more affluent community that is present and able to afford Issaquah. When you have families that make a little bit more money, it usually comes with higher education, and this usually is typically coincides with a lower crime rate around. So that's just part of Issaquah. It's more expensive to live there, and you are going to get a lower crime rate. No place is ever going to be free of crime, because that's just impossible. But if you compare it to some neighboring cities, especially south of Bellevue, like Renton and Kent and Auburn, there's going to be a little bit higher crime rate that you just don't see here in Issaquah. But I think a huge reason is because the police is just super well staffed and known for their efficiency. So you're going to feel pretty safe, most likely, living here in Issaquah. With all good things come with some bad things too. So there are some cons to living in Issaquah, Washington. The first con of living in Issaquah, Washington is the cost of living. Just like Bellevue, it is more expensive to live in Issaquah when you compare it to neighboring cities like Renton, Kent, and Auburn, which is south of Bellevue. So the median home price right now in Issaquah, Washington is $1,057,000. So it's a little bit cheaper than Bellevue, but definitely more expensive than Seattle. So the homes do come at a higher price tag. Part of that is, you get to go to Issaquah schools, but a lot of it is just because of the natural beauty that comes with living in Issaquah, and just that higher affluent community that Issaquah is known for. The real estate market is super competitive in Issaquah, even in slower times in the market. So you're going to see more bidding wars, which sometimes can cause inflated prices, and sort of the homes to slowly go up in value, which is both good and bad. Not so great if you're trying to get in to the housing market easily. There is also just a higher price around town. So if you are looking for entertainment or shopping or dining experiences right in Issaquah, you are going to just pay a little bit more money, because everything just costs a little bit more in a more affluent place. So taxes are higher for those businesses, things like that. Last point I want to make is taxes for residents that live there are higher than other taxes in other parts of the Puget Sound lowlands, like the other towns I've mentioned. So the tax base is pretty low because there's only 40,000 people in Issaquah. So that does mean that you're going to pay a little bit more in property taxes and sales tax, things like that, because the city does need to generate revenue. And so that is going to, it is going to affect residents, because we don't pay an income tax here in Washington. So cities do have to generate that income some way, and that is going to be heavily taxed on the residents here in Issaquah, more than some of those neighboring towns. The number 2 con of living in Issaquah is the traffic. So just like other towns around Seattle, there's not the best road infrastructure. So if you are having to commute into Seattle or into Bellevue, there's only a couple of highways that are going to help get you there from Issaquah. So I-90 is the main way. It takes I-90 starts in, it starts in Seattle and it goes east all the way across the country, but it's going to take you east through Bellevue and then into Issaquah. And so you're just going to be backed up if you were having to travel during rush hour. The other road to sort of get into the west side of things is State Route 900. And again, that can just be super slow. There's only 1 or 2 lanes, and many parts of that road is just 1 lane. And it can really back up if you don't have flexibility in your commute time. The city of Issaquah is working on fixing the infrastructure for commuters, building in more bike lanes and things like that to help with people stay off the road. Also ride shares, expand the public transit systems, things like that, but it's just a work in progress. There's been a 28% growth in population in Issaquah since 2020, so the roads can't really keep up with the growth there. There's also construction that happens with that growing population, and so that's going to mean more waiting around, waiting for construction workers to wrap up their business, let you pass by, things like that. The third con of living in Issaquah is the limited diversity. So we've talked about diversity in a lot of my videos, and Issaquah is just, it's a little bit predominantly white when you compare it to other suburbs around Seattle, which could be good or bad depending on what you're comfortable with. So the limited diversity means that about 60% of the community is white. About 26% is Asian, 7% is Latino, and only 2% are African American. So there's something to be said for a community that lacks diversity, but that's just one of the things about Issaquah. The number 4 con of living in Issaquah, Washington is, like every place in the Northwest, it's the weather. If you are used to the sunshine of California or Arizona or Texas, well, you are in for a rude awakening because it is pretty rainy and cloudy, sometimes in Seattle. Okay, we've got about 6 months of the year that's absolutely outstanding. And I will say that Seattleites, we really appreciate our sun more than I would say other people that get really used to and get super complacent with their sunny weathers, because we really feel grateful because it's more of a novelty. So there are 152 on average rainy days a year in Seattle and over 200 cloudy days. Now that could just mean a few clouds pop up at some point in the day. But it does mean that it can be a little bit gray. Some people have to use a happy light to just like feel that warmth on them if they can't deal with the clouds and the rain. I personally just kind of like to get, cozied up by the fire in my robe and slippers in those months and just sort of like hibernate, enjoy the kind of the darkness of the winter, but that's not everyone's cup of tea. No pun intended there. The one cool thing about the weather in Seattle area like Issaquah is that you just don't have those big natural disasters that you see in a lot of other parts of the United States. So we don't have crazy hurricanes or wildfires or earthquakes or tornadoes. Those are the main ones I can think of. And we just don't have that. So we haven't had an earthquake here since 2001 that was actually sizable, and even that didn't do very much damage. So we're a little bit protected being close to, but not too close to the ocean. So it's just not so bad up here if you can deal with the gray and the rain from about, this year it was about starting in September. Sometimes we get to it staves off until about October, but from September to about April, you can expect sort of a little bit of grayness. The 5th and final con of living in Issaquah, Washington is the limited entertainment. So although there is a movie theater in the Grand Ridge Plaza, and there's some different shopping places like Gilman Village and the Grand Ridge Plaza, as well as some other areas, there is not a whole lot to do as far as nightlife. Now, there is the Cougar Mountain Zoo, which is pretty amazing, and there is lots of fun to be had outside, like camping and fishing and boating and all that kind of fun stuff. You can go into the mountains really close by, but you're gonna have to head into Seattle if you like that super, late night type vibe. You want to go to, late night shows and clubs and lounges and all that kind of stuff. You're going to want to go into the city. That's just not going to be in Issaquah. There is the Village Theater. There's actually 2 different places where the Village Theater puts on plays, if that's your style. There's lots of different like art galleries and things like that. Definitely a lot of culture and events happening in downtown Issaquah, but just limited entertainment. So something to think about when you're thinking about living in the suburbs. Do you want to have to take an Uber into the city, or are you okay with a little bit of a quieter sort of suburb? It's up to you. So I hope you got some value learning about the good and the bad of living in Issaquah. Make no mistake, Issaquah is one of my very favorite suburbs of Seattle, Washington. Highly recommend taking a look at this town. I think it outdoes the neighbors around it for so many of the reasons that I stated. So if you want me to, help you take you around town, I would love to hear from you. Like I said, all the information is in the description below. I would love to help you make that smooth move to Seattle if you are looking to move here soon. So with that, I hope you have a great day. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap that bell for notifications so that you can be the first to learn about the current market here in Seattle. I hope you have an awesome day. Peace out.